Hey guys, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and today we're going to cover 5 things that you can do today to get rid of lower back pain. Now, before we kick things off, I will preface this video by saying I'm not in a position where I know exactly who you are, what you do, and how you live and how you move. With that in mind, my suggestion would be, if you've been suffering with lower back pain for an extended period of time, is to seek help from a functional patterns practitioner. I am a functional patterns practitioner. There are practitioners around the world. You can use their website. I'll probably link it down below so that you can check and see who would be a good fit for you to get rid of your lower back pain. With that out the way, let's focus on 5 things that you can check in on today that will help you moving forwards. With all of these exercises, you've got to focus on A, what release work needs to happen, B, what corrective exercises need to happen, and C, what dynamic exercises you can do that aren't going to create more bad habits with those muscles. The 5th one on my list is glute function. You notice I haven't said glute strength. The reason I haven't said glute strength is because function of the muscle is more important at the beginning of fixing yourself than the strength in the muscle inherently. You want strength in a muscle, you want strength in length of the muscle, and you want strength in contraction of the muscle. But where a lot of people find it's challenging is because the muscle has adopted certain positions over time that inhibit the muscle from working effectively. So with your glutes being a powerhouse muscle, i.e. they drive a lot of your movement day to day, if they're not strong, or maybe they're strong in the wrong context, it could be impacting on your spine. Exercises that will improve your glute function would be:
on a release work front, you will be looking to release your quadriceps like this with a ball or a foam roller. Moving on from there, you can release your glute max and medius with a ball, again using a ball like this or a foam roller like that. If you want to advance the technique, you can use a lacrosse ball. The next thing you want to do is start with the Elvis tuck, as I call it. In this position, you're looking to have some support for your knee. I recommend using a thin yoga block to help create a balance between your hips in terms of the height. From there, you're looking to keep your core engaged, your navel in, and you're looking to stick your bum out. I always think like Donald Duck, stick your bum out slightly, anterior tilt the pelvis, and then as you come up, you want to posteriorly tuck the pelvis underneath you. That is called the Elvis tuck position, one that you should feel a bit of a stretch in your quadricep and some activation in your glute. But we want to make sure that we're not just bending and crunching, we're actually trying to keep that spine nice and lengthened.
For this exercise, you're going to need a dowel or a stick. You're going to place that on your hips. You're going to have your hands pressing in to keep the stick from falling. You're going to then hold yourself in a strong active position, and from there you're going to weight shift onto one leg and imagine you're walking. What you'll then do is, if it's your left leg forwards, you're going to pull back with your left hand to help turn your hips, sink your bum back as you tilt forwards to feel your glute load. The whole time we want to make sure that we're trying to keep our navel retracted and our core engaged. As I do that, I come out, square the hips, drop back, feel the glute load, feel the glute should stretch, the hamstring should stretch, come back up. If I switch to the other side, I do the same there. Again, you might find one side works better than the other, and again I'm looking to get into that glute, feel it load, and aim to keep my core engaged as I tilt forwards. Now, moving on to number 4, your core function. Again, understanding how the muscles work and what they're designed to do is the most important thing. With your core, you have got a lot of extension, flexion, rotation, and bend from side to side. If your core is fixed in positions that it shouldn't be in, or maybe it doesn't know how to rotate properly anymore, that's probably because of how you've behaved over time to create those habits in the body. What we have to do is try and break that cycle by testing out different ranges of movement within the core that you're comfortable doing, and then building a better relationship with those functions of those muscles. So exercises that would help you with this would be:
so the first thing you're going to do is release some of the tension that might be in your upper abdominal region using a lacrosse ball. This one is not as tender probably for most people, and will feel a little bit weird. So take your time executing this one. Moving on from there, you'd be looking to create better extension and better flexion of the spine. So notice I'm lying on my back and I'm trying to extend my spine and then flex my spine, and I'm lifting my knee with my leg crossed over, which creates an additional stretch on my glute. This is something that I just use to help get people in the idea of using their stomach muscles to contract and lengthen under tension, and also free up some of the tension in their glutes.
The third one on my list, and probably one that ties in really well with your core function, is thoracic spine function. Now, if you look at me, you'll notice that although I hide it quite well under my clothing, my thoracic spine is pretty rounded. It's been rounded for a long time, it's always been a problem for me, and probably a large part of my problems stem from this region of my body not working very well. Your thoracic spine helps you stay upright. If we get fixed into positions that we shouldn't be in, or we get collapsing of the rib cage, we end up with problems and compensations in other parts of our body. With the thoracic spine in mind, these are the exercises I would suggest you try out.
The first exercise will be a lat release, and what you'll be looking to do here is lie with your serratus muscle or your lat muscle on the foam roller, pressing in, and try and be as relaxed as possible. You notice I'm starting to rotate in and out with my chest, and the reason I'm doing that is to try and create a little bit of motion through my thoracic region.
So the first part of this, after you've done the release work, is going to be the supine pressure drill. This is about imagining that your midsection is like a balloon. And the reason that's important is because the pressures of your upper body and your torso will change depending on the context of the situation. So if you're bending down, or if you're standing straight, if you're running, if you're throwing, if you're standing, whatever you're doing, your pressures will change based on your position in space. So the pressure drill is something to help you reconnect with what it feels like to bring pressure into your rib cage, and what it feels like to put pressure into your stomach. And the way I'll refer to this is like positive and negative pressure. So the way to do this is to lie on your back and with your feet hip width apart, okay? Don't go too wide, don't go too long, just try to be hip width apart. You want the middle of your knee to line up with the middle of your hip. And then we're going to place our back on the floor like this. And what we're going to start with is we're going to start by trying to pull the belly button in, and almost like you're showing your ribs that way, okay? Now as we pull that belly button in, I want you thinking, breathe through the nose into the ribs, okay, into the chest. And I want to create a little space for your lower back so you can put your hand underneath it. All right, so we're going to breathe in. And then I want you to hold that pressure and get used to slowly exhaling, maybe even having a little chat with yourself like I'm doing, and then get used to keeping that pressure in there without trying to hold your breath, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we're going to go one more deep breath in. Fill up that pressure, and now we're going to pass the pressure down to my stomach. So I'm going to go So what I'm going to do with that pressure is initially I'm going to use my breath to trigger this as a response. Filling with air, starting to get that lower back, a little bit of space, and then pressure. And then at some stage you'll get so good at doing this that it will become second nature for you to just go. You see how I can change my pressures without actually breathing. Okay, that right there is me using my diaphragm, using my core, using my muscles in my midsection to create a pressure change. And in some exercises you're going to need to have your rib cage pressurized. In other exercises you're going to have to lose that pressure a little bit. But if we can get you more aware of this, then you're going to be better off in the long run. So that's the supine pressure drill. And with those three out the way, what I'd like you to just think about really quickly is the idea of a triangle. The points of the triangle being the bottom part of the triangle here being your glutes, the top part of the triangle here being your thoracic spine, and the point of this triangle over here in the corner is your core. Those areas of your body help to create stability and help you to stand and help you to move. When all three of those work really well, your spine is more stable. And when your spine is more stable, it's less likely to be impacted by pain or jolts. That brings me on to number 2 on my list, is how you sleep. And more importantly, not the positions, but how the quality of your sleep impacts your day to day. If you're going to bed tired and you're waking up tired, it stands to reason that your physiology isn't going to be able to hold up through the stresses and strains of the day, whether that's physical exercise or whether that's going to work and dealing with a boss that you might think is a bit of a dick. What I'd say with sleep is regulate your sleep patterns so that you're getting a decent amount of sleep, but not only that, regulate your sleep patterns by reducing the amount of caffeine that you take on board, possibly even what time you eat your last meal. If you have your last big meal earlier in the day and you go to bed, say at 9 o'clock, and your last meal was at 6, that's given you 3 hours for your stomach to digest some of the food that will help you sleep better. The temperature of your room makes a difference in how you sleep. Also, the exposure that you have to blue light, maybe through your phone, maybe through your devices, also has an impact on your sleep patterns. And the last thing on my list with that would be direct sunlight. If you can get into the sunlight and you can get some exposure to the sunlight on your eyeballs first thing in the morning, and you can reduce the level of blue light that you're seeing throughout the evening, then your sleep patterns will regulate over time. The reason that's important is because the better you sleep, the better your body will feel. The better your body feels, the less likely you're going to be putting yourself in positions that cause compensations or discomfort. The last thing on my list, and this kind of ties in really well with the sleep element, is stress. If you think about stress as being something primal, as being something like someone attacking you, well, it's very hard for your body to discern that a lion chasing you down in the old savannah versus an email coming through from someone that you don't really like.
Let's not lose our cool. Then we're no better than the machine.
Maybe financial stress that's bombarding your brain. Your brain has the capability of controlling so many things. I could go on for ages, but understand that being mindful and doing all these mindful activities separate to everything else is great. It sure helps you cope, but it doesn't solve the problem in the first place. Your stress response has a direct correlation to your physiological being. If your lower back is in pain, it's likely that your stress levels won't be managed very well, and vice versa. What you've got to do is start treating the system in an integrated fashion and saying, well, if I just improve by 10% my core function, my glute function, and my thoracic spine function, and I get 10% better sleep, then all of a sudden we're 40% better off as a human being, which takes a lot less stress into consideration for our brains to deal with. Ultimately, tweaking certain areas of your life and certain physiological things, you can reduce your stress levels. Now, I'm not saying don't meditate. I'm not saying don't maybe focus on time for yourself. Those are very important elements of making up a balanced human being. But just remember that we're looking for elements of our homeostasis that we're looking to maintain. If you're really interested in this, I read a book a few years ago, and I'm reading it again by Robert Sapolsky, which is Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And if you're from America, you're probably wondering why I said zebra. Well, that's because I'm from Africa and that's how we say zebra. Anyway, those 5 things are the foundation of how to cure lower back pain. If you have any questions or if you feel like you're stuck, then please reach out to me or another functional patterns practitioner around the world. We'd be happy to help you and answer any questions that you have. Other than that, I hope you have a great day, stay strong and keep moving.